Hey everyone, welcome to another video from Cloud LearnX. Today I'm going to review a video recording of a live session of mine. Here I'll be looking at different areas of this recording and sharing my ideas and what I thought went well in this session. Um, Obviously, by no means is this a perfect session, and there probably is a lot of space to improve. So if you have any tips, or if you thought I could have done better somewhere, you can share them down in the comments. Uh, right, so let's get started. First, about this student. So my assessment on this student. This student has been a student of mine for a while now, and she is in year 7. Her knowledge level or her cognition skills are, I would say, at average or just under average. So she's trying and working on uh, filling certain gaps, especially in this section, positive and negative numbers. She has a lot of gaps that comes from her lower grades, primary level. So we're trying to fill those gaps in. Another thing that she needs to work on is working on essay type problems, trying and breaking down these questions and reasoning things out. Another goal, that a long-term goal that she has, is trying to focus on explaining her workings and paying more attention to the workings than the answer. So what I have found with this student is that she focuses more on getting the right answer, and she can be discouraged if she does not end up with the right answer. So my goal in every session with her is to try and build that confidence and get her to reason things out and work independently. So yeah, let's get started with this video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you see the number line and the things that you wrote? Negative 16 and 32?
Yes, sir.
Okay, brilliant. So you can continue from here. We were trying the second question, so could you give it a go?
So you see, we have to check the difference between these two numbers. So first we have to check the gap between these two numbers.
Oh, okay, let's give it a try. Yeah. Mhm.
So should I draw on the number line? Can I do it
Yeah.
mentally?
If you yeah, you could do it mentally. You can do it any way you want. Yeah, but you can explain to me sort of like what's your plan, right? While you're doing it.
Okay.
Okay. So this I thought. Yeah. So this is something I do with all my students. I give them the space to work it the way they like it. I don't force any method on them. So that's the same with this student. She wanted to know how she wanted to do it. I allowed her to do it, to approach it the way she wants to. So that's also part of the learning. So I didn't want to lead the pupil. I don't want to lead the pupil and give her direction. So part of solving these essay type questions is coming up with the method, right? So uh, I give students the space to come up with a plan, right? But I also do make sure to let the student know and ask her to explain the plan or give me an idea on what she's planning to do, so that I know she's going on the right track to start off with. So right, so let's see what happens from here.
So first I'm checking the gap between -6, 16 to 0.
Okay, let's do that. So yeah. Yeah. So over here, she takes a minute or so to do her workings on her own, and there's a bit of silence here. So I do not interrupt her in this scenario. I don't interrupt students. I love them, especially with the secondary students. I give them more time for themselves, right? More thinking time, um, and so on, so that one of the reasons is because I'm trying to give her confidence. I don't want to rush things up and try to get her to rush to the answer. That's not what I want. So what I want with her is to try and build the reasoning skills and independence. Um, right. So for a while, she won't be doing anything. She won't be doing on the slides. She'll be working silently. So this silence is important for me to do an assessment, to try and understand what is going on in her mind, what methods might she be using, try and judge what approach she is taking. So that's what I'm doing during this phase. So that helps me come up with some follow-up questions, and that helps me identify if she has any misconceptions so that I can address them. So this is an important phase of the session. So I'm going to kind of skip through the silence and get to where she actually shows what she's got. Uh, right.
So the gap between the gap between 16 negative 6 is 16.
Okay, shall we write that inside the box? Good.
And
Okay.
the gap between
Yeah.
32 and 0 is 32.
Okay. And was now have you understood an easy way to do get the gap, or are you counting? Uh,
No,
in,
sir. Now I found an easy way because when you say negative 16 to 0, it's 60, and 32 to 0, it's 32.
Very good. So that's what I want you to understand by yourself. That's the way to learn. By yourself, you found an easy method. So, yes, that's a reason I told you that we will be learning why we are doing this. Because actually, it's very easy without having to count step by step. If we count up to 0, it is straight away 16. If we count up to 0, it's straight away the same value. So, now what do we do after this to find the difference? Okay, so here things went just as planned, exactly what I wanted. She was able to make really good progress in terms of understanding, working out the gaps without having to count on. Should she previously during the lesson we worked with smaller numbers, so she was able to count on using a number line. But in this application problem, we've got quite bigger numbers, and it did take her some time because she was using that method again, trying and going from negative 16 to 0 by counting on. But soon, by herself, she was able to uh, come up with that pattern, with that observation. She was able to develop that, to make that progress, to go ahead and identify that this is to identify a simpler method to do this. So that's a good positive there. So here, once she did that, to be honest, at year 7, this what she did wasn't a big achievement, but for her to because I'm for her to make that progress, it's good progress for her. So which is why I praised her for it and praised the independence, because I want her to repeat this more often, explanations and reasoning. So right, so this part of the session went really well, and she did come up with the answer finally. um, I'm going to move on to a different area of this session. Let's go about 25.
Mm. Mm.
Starting number is -3. Good. And what are we doing to -3?
-3 have to go 5 steps to the positive side.
Okay, and why 5 steps to the positive side?
Mm. Because
What are we doing to?
negative,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
because negative uh, could go by the positive side.
Hmm. So to -3 is the starting number.
Because negative first, first number is a starting number is 3, and the number steps are -5. So we should go by the right the right side.
Okay, so could you tell me, according to this calculation, what are we doing to -3? What are we doing to it in the calculation? What are we doing? -3? We are?
Marking it on the chart.
No, I
Chart.
mean in this calculation. In this calculation over here, -3. What are we doing? What are they doing to -3? What are they doing? They are in the calculation, if you read it,
Adding
adding
-5.
adding -5. So adding
Negative
-5.
5.
Yes, adding -5. So uh, so adding -5. So what is that like? Could you explain using the ice cube thing? What is that like? So -5 is like,
Uh, Excuse me, sir. Is it like sir said, like we're putting to the water ice cube, so it's getting cold, like decrease. So when we add another negative, isn't it turning so cold, and it will be 2, 3,
it would,
4, 5. So wouldn't the answer be -8?
yes, exactly. So that's the way to reason things out. So basically you only have to think about this part. What are we doing to -3? Adding -5. It's like adding some ice. If we add some ice, it is going to get colder and colder. So what is the new temperature of the, not the temperature, actually the value?
-8.
-8. Okay, so this was also something I thought was productive in this session. So here the student was able to complete question number 1 and 2 really easily. She was comfortable with it. It was very similar to what she had done in the previous concept slides. Number 3, intentionally, I've chosen a question which has -3 as a starting number, so a negative number to start with. And so she gets confused with this and thinks it has to be the opposite. It has to be the other way around. So she's confused. Right, so in this sort of scenario, what I do is when she said, okay, do I do that? I would not say yes or no, right? I wouldn't like to lead the pupil here. I want to know why what was the reasoning behind it. I want to use follow-up questions, so which is why I asked, why do you say that? Why do you think so? So sometimes you could do follow-up question after follow-up question and go on, but sometimes it leads to nowhere. You ask so many follow-up questions, and the pupil is confused by the end. It becomes counterproductive at that point. Uh, so it's a fine line with you. It's all to do with the experience you have with that particular student, and it's about understanding at which point you need to change the approach and choose a different strategy. Maybe if you want to visualize, or whether you want to use a different approach. But here it worked really nice for me. I had to ask a couple of follow-up questions, and I got her into the right track. So that was a plus point for me over here. It worked well. Yeah, and another thing you may have seen is that she recent things out using the ice cube thing, which we discussed earlier, and she was able to bring that real life aspect into this. So that too, instead of getting pupils to memorize things, uh, linking with real life aspects works really well, like it did over here. But she got the answer, job not yet done, because now I want to make sure that the student understood this, and the student develops that metacognition, so that she understood why was I confused, right? How was this question different to the previous ones? So being able to develop that skill is important, metacognition. So let's see what I do from this point onwards. So I don't just leave it off at the answer and move on, but let's see what happens next.
Negative.
Yes, good. So what was the thing you understood from this particular question? So you had some confusion with this when compared to the first two questions.
In listing both are negative, so we, if it's both are negative, we could just forget the minus signs, the negative two signs. We could have 3 plus 5, so negative, if it's a negative, that means turning it's like like uh, from the ice cube method, it's like turning colder and going. So when we had 3 plus 5 is 8.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to forget about the negative sign. You can keep them, but you have to remember when you add a negative number, it's like adding ice. It's going to get colder. So that's all you need to remember. So that's why the value decreases. So, um, right, I want you to try question number 4 as well. Right? Yeah, so this is okay. So yes, when I got her to explain uh, why uh, why she was confused and what she understood by this question, she gave me an explanation. You may have understood that it wasn't exactly quite right. So here, uh, sometimes once you get the answer, you tend to, as tutors, you tend to, okay, skip these explanations and you say yeah, and you move on to the next one. But if you identify, even though the student got the answer, for me, I felt that the student did not exactly grab the concept here, right? Which is what I felt from her explanation. So I wanted to reinforce the fact, the actual concept behind this. I did not go into detail and following up with questions and getting her to explain things further and further, digging deep into this question, because I felt like I don't know, it was a judgment on how much work I wanted to get out of this pupil and how much progress I wanted to make within the lesson. So there's restrictions. I'm not sure if I made the right judgment there. So, but I felt like it was important that I reinforced and emphasized on the actual concept and told her that we do not necessarily forget the negative signs. That's not what we do. So that's a misconception that had to be addressed, and it's important that it wasn't skipped, because that could go on to higher levels. So yeah. So a good post assessment, I felt like, was done here. I'm not sure necessarily whether it was the best, whether I reinforced things the way I would have liked to, but the post assessment, I was able to get an understanding of where the student stands. Uh, so that might help me in giving her, when I'm giving her her homework or worksheets, I could keep challenging the pupil, testing these areas once I know that she isn't very confident with some of these areas that I touched on. So yeah. Right then, I'm gonna move on to the next and last phase of this session. Question, could you try question number 4? Yeah.
So for that thing, should we use a number line?
You could, or if you don't want, you don't have to. If you can do it mentally, you can do it mentally. That's totally fine. Up to you. So, could you read question number 4? What has happened?
The answer is there, the fraction, then I'm mixing that.
Yep. They have given you the answer, but they have not given you what they are adding. They haven't told you what they are adding. So you have to find out what they are adding. So how to do this? What is the number they are adding to 7? Okay, could you explain how you work this out? Why is it a negative number?
Because when it's coming a lower number, it always decrease. When you get a lower answer, it always decrease.
Yes, so what was the answer that we got here in this question?
1.
1. So it has decreased. So that's a good job that you identified that. From 7, it has decreased to 1. So definitely, like you said, it has to be what sort of a number?
It's a negative number.
A negative number. And how did you find out it is 6? Negative 6?
I jumped. I jumped until now a positive 1.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the positive 1. The last answer would be 6, so it would be negative 6.
Yes, so
Because the number step is the number step we have to jump 6 times.
exactly, brilliant. Okay, good work there. So I want you to take a small screenshot of. Okay, again, that went really nicely. I was really happy of the progress that she made, um, especially how she tackled that challenging problem. It was different from all three that she tried, and she was able to identify that, see what's going on, especially how she understood that it's decreasing, the answer decreased, so it has to be a negative number was really important. And I was able to post assess that and identify that she actually understood the concept and she had made progress there. So all in all, I felt like that was successful. Um, so yeah, that's about this session. Right, I'll be wrapping up this review here. If you've got anything that I missed out on, if you felt like I could have done better somewhere, if I made any errors or I could improve on things, do let me know down below in the comments, and we can have a discussion around that. So yeah, let me know what tips you liked in this session and which you'll be applying to your sessions as well. So have a great day.